Welcome to Lead Like a Girl, where we are empowering everyday women through our stories. I'm your host, Jessica Smith, and I began this journey by sharing my life story. Now, I've joined forces with my longtime friends, Jamie and Corlin, to keep this party going. We met many years ago as young sales girls in our 20s, driven and quickly rising to the top of our industry. As the years went on, life happened, and we all found ourselves in new companies and completely different industries, still striving for success in it all. Career, family, faith, fun. Now, it wasn't easy, but we never stopped moving. Get ready for our real conversations, inspiring stories, and our big life lessons as we share it all. The good, the bad, and the funny. Welcome to Lead Like a Girl. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Lead Like a Girl. I'm really excited. Today we have a guest, and I want to just do a quick introduction here. Now, those of you that do not know, you can watch us on YouTube, Lead Like a Girl Lab on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and all social media. Check out our website, leadlikeagirllab.com. So again, thank you for joining us. And today we have a special guest, a good friend of mine from Toastmasters. You guys know that I love a good Toastmasters friend. And let me just do a quick introduction for Reverend Jennifer. She has an extensive background in Christian radio and television production and programming, appearing, producing, and hosting shows focused on women in media. So she has produced and hosted various programs. She is the former producer of WATZ TV 57 Atlanta Live. So she has also produced cooking shows and fitness segments. In her spare time, she enjoys reading, writing, traveling, and playing the flute. I love that. So welcome, Reverend
That's
Jennifer.
quite a list, Reverend Jennifer.
Right. We love it. We love it.
That's impressive.
And listen, she has written 3 books. So we're going to focus on her recent, which is Self-Care, the Vital Art of Nurturing You. So let's jump in, ladies. Where do you want to start?
I'm sure you already know, Reverend Jennifer. You may not know this, but Jessica and Corlin will know that as soon as she said cooking shows, I was like, wait, what?
I saw Jamie's eyes go like this.
She may be calling you for some mentorship.
I can't wait to hear all about that.
Absolutely. So
How about I would like to start at the beginning. Could you give us a short little how you started and till now? I mean the highlight reel of how did you get to have such an accomplished career?
How did I get to this point? It took years. It took many years. When I first when I was growing up, went to college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I kept switching. Didn't find out later that I'm actually a creative person. When I got into corporate America, and then they started saying, well, you know what? Have you thought about media? Have you thought about public relations? And this was many years ago. And I said, no, I had no clue what a press release, what a news release. I knew nothing about that. But they hired me nonetheless. And of course, I learned, and they eventually sent me back to school. I learned to play the flute in junior high school. I still play it now. In fact, I just played it this Sunday at church. And all these other skills I just kind of picked up along the way. Because I'm a creative person. I kind of get bored with certain things after a while. You know, I like structure, but doing the same repetitive thing over and over, I have to add some little spice to it, so to speak.
I love that.
And let me tell you, you talked about the cooking shows. That can be challenging because once you start the cooking shows, once something starts cooking, you can't uncook it. So cooking shows are fun. So I had to learn you have to do it in stages. Have to be what all the ingredients, what it looks like after you mix them up, and then the finished product.
Wow.
It can be tricky. Yep.
But how did that come about, by the way? Now, do you love to cook? Is that something that you've always done? And then the opportunity came and you're like, yeah, I want to do that.
Actually, no. My husband does probably 95% of the cooking.
Wow,
I,
good for you.
yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. And he's a great cook. But the cooking show, producing the cooking show, that came apart with the media. I was
Okay.
at the television station as a producer for Atlanta Live, and I just kind of eased on into, I was watching a cooking show, and then something happened one day, and they said, listen, we don't have the producer today. Can you fill in? And so
Ah,
that's how that started.
I love that.
I
So
wonder how.
play it down for us idiots in the front row that don't know exactly what is the role of a producer? What does that actually mean?
Okay, a role of a producer is we have the responsibility of the content and the people that come on the show. A
Okay.
lot of times people think it's the host because you don't see the producer. The
Right.
producers are in the background, but the producer are the ones that put all the moving pieces together. Like, if, for example, if I wanted, let's just grab somebody has a new book coming out, I would reach out to their producer or their public relations person and said, "Listen, I've got to have them on my show." That's how that works. And then I tell the host, listen, so and so has a new book out. We need to get them on. That's who's going to be your guest this coming Tuesday. That's
Got it.
how that works. Yep. Yep.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I
Yeah.
want to get into this book because, like I said, this is really timely for us because we've been talking a lot about self-care. And we really like to support our listeners with this. We talked a little bit about the show, and I was sharing with you that I just feel like right now we have a mental health crisis going on. And for me, that's left me really wanting to take care of myself so that I can take care of others because there's so many people suffering. So I want to dive into first, what was your inspiration for writing your recent book on self-care? Where did that?
That started, as we just talked about, I was a television producer, which can be an exciting position, get to meet a lot of people, but I was absolutely getting burnt out. Absolutely burnt out. I reached a point about 6 years ago. I just felt like I could not do it anymore. I mean, I was absolutely burnt out. It was starting to affect my health. I began to pray. I said, God, what is it that you want me to do? I know you don't want my gifts and talents to go to waste. And I kept hearing people talk about self-care, and I started doing a little bit of research on it. And I like what you just said a second ago. You start taking care of yourself. And there's a quote I'd like to share by Eleanor Brown that says, self-care is so important. When you take time to replenish your spirit, it allows you to serve others from the overflow. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. Think about when you're on an airplane, what do they tell you to do? If something happens, put the mask, oxygen mask, over yourself first.
Yes.
Then check to the person to your to your right or to your left, depending where you're seated. And that's what self-care is about. It's not selfish, but it's about taking care of you. And I think that that's what's part of what's going on. We have so much going on in us, we don't take care of ourselves. So that's basically what self-care is. And that's how I got to that point. I was burnt out.
So once you were feeling that way, feeling burnt out, was there something that triggered your let's say like your courage or your confidence to make the decision of, all right, I'm burnt out. Other people are probably burnt out. I have something I can give. Was there anything that happened that sort of triggered that where you thought, this is the time to write this book? The time is now.
Went to the president because I answered directly to the president. And I said, listen, I'm burnt out. And he says, so what do you want to do? We certainly don't want you to leave. I said, let me take some time off. So I took about a month off, came back to work, and I said, for a while, worked for about a couple of more months, and I said, this is not it. So I turned my resignation in, and of course they tried to talk me in, and so they kept extending the resignation, kept extending, Ada, can you stay another weekend? And I said, okay, I see where this is going. Because pretty soon it's going to be another month. It's going to be 2 months. And I said, no, I have to go. and I took some time off. I was fortunate enough to take some time off. And I used to get up in the morning and I would sit on my deck and just meditate. And I had to pull myself together because it was starting to affect my health. So I had to make that decision. And
Yeah.
I started pinning things down, how I was feeling. So that's how
Mm,
the book came about. Yep.
Yeah.
nice.
I
So
love
did
that.
your family notice these things? I mean, I know you just mentioned that your husband does a lot of the cooking, and that's awesome. What about, any him or your other family? Did they notice a change in you when you started to get stressed like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Unfortunately, I was taking it out on my husband. I was snapping at him, yelling at him. And he is the nicest, sweetest person in the world. He did not deserve that.
Yeah. Yeah.
My sister, she doesn't live far from me. She was picking up on it. My family did not deserve that.
Yeah.
They did not deserve it. And so I said, I've got to do something. And they were very supportive of me. They said, you need to do whatever you need to do. My husband said, if you need to quit the job, we'll be okay. But they did not deserve it. And I was taking it out on them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, they did notice it.
And when you think about how you got there, so I'm going to use myself and these ladies, we're very much alike when it
Hmm.
comes to work. And when you think about how you got there, is it others setting such high expectations of you from the job, or do you think it was more, you know, you were setting these expectations on yourself? Do you think it had a little bit of, you're a woman in media, and that's like the automotive industry? It's not a lot of, we're all from very male dominated industries. Do you think it was a little bit, or was there one thing that really weighed heavy when you think about how you got there?
Felt that I had to constantly prove myself because you're absolutely correct. There are more women in media now than ever before. But when I first started, there weren't a lot of women, certainly not a producer. I mean, if you go back 15, 20 years and look at a television station in the back, it's all men. So
Yeah.
I felt I had to constantly prove myself and go above and beyond what others were doing. And
Yeah.
after a while, you can get burnt out. It's
Yeah.
like what I did was just never enough. And I said, wait a minute, I know I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
I know I am. But it was because basically I'm a woman and a woman of color.
Absolutely. Yep.
Mhm.
Definitely know how that is.
Can
I
you
know.
share with us just a little bit into that insight? How do you feel that your life then was different from your white male counterparts? Can you give us a glimpse into that life a little bit?
I would come up with more content, more programming, more shows than that what they would come up with. Or worse yet, they would steal some of my ideas.
And people hear that and they don't believe that's a real thing. That's a real thing.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I would see them get away with things that I couldn't get away with. So yes, absolutely. It's real.
Yeah. And
I
I don't
think
know that that's starting to
listening to you
change.
share a little bit early on your in your journey that you had mentioned like you cannot serve from an empty vessel, but you
Hmm.
going in to ask for that short leave. I feel like that is a bold move. I mean, I think that takes an insane amount of courage because I just think that the challenges that we've talked about here on our podcast too is that going in and saying that, hey, I need help or I need a break or I need something. I
Hmm.
feel like the challenge is I feel weak. I feel inadequate. I feel not enough. Can you talk to us a little bit about how we can counteract those feelings to prioritize ourselves?
Absolutely. You know, the World Health Organization even recognizes self-care, and self-care is described as doing whatever you need to do within reason to make yourself at peace. And yes, I had no issues with going in saying, listen, I need to take some time off. I absolutely need to take some time off. I need to pull myself together And I didn't look, I mean, to see me, I didn't look like I was falling apart, but it was manifesting itself in other ways. My personality, because I think I have an outgoing personality, and to see me snapping and mean and just not doing things like that just was not me. So yes, I had to take that bold step. And I think women or anyone, because my husband always reminds me, he said, remember, honey, men need self-care too. But we need to do this self-care and take care of ourselves. I just recently written an article that self-care is not a trend, because we hear about it, it's like the buzzword. No, it is real. We need to incorporate it in our lives daily.
Yeah, and like
I know
Orlando
when
was
you
alluding to.
when I read your sorry, Jess. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just when I was reading your bio this morning, I was thinking about just this. I looked up, I sort of stalked your book for a minute because I went to, where can I find this book? And I saw it on Amazon. And then I started trying to look for your other books, which maybe you can speak on where to find those. But I saw that you had used scripture in the writing of this book. Mm-hmm. And personally, I've had some life lessons learned recently and in the past few years where I'm a terrible writer, so I don't think I would ever write a book. I don't know that, but I would say probably not. But I have some lessons, that I feel like I could share and help people with. Mm-hmm. How did you figure, tell me your approach. I know that it said that you used scripture, but what did you do to figure out some of these answers that you were able to help others with when you were writing this book? Like when you're looking at self-care, how did you come up with that content?
Started just writing. I would suggest to whatever you're feeling, just write it. Don't worry about how it sounds. Don't worry about grammatic, the grammar part. Just start writing. Write what you're feeling. And I think one of the chapters, because if you notice, it says from self-care from A to Z. And one of the chapters, the first chapter is anxiety. My first chapter is
which we
anxiety.
Just had an episode on, Jennifer.
You all just, I think I saw that.
Yeah.
And so that was one of my, so it's from A to Z. It's A to Z. And the first chapter was anxiety. And a lot of people experience anxiety now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And absolutely. I started noticing that. That was another thing I noticed besides being angry, angry. I'll just say it. Instead of aside from being angry, I was experiencing anxiety.
Yeah. No, I think that's
so I just started writing those feelings. Yes.
I wanted to touch on something. In your book, you discuss the delicate balance between serving others and not losing yourself. And that really spoke to me because I love taking care of others. I love serving, but sometimes that's exactly how I feel. So how can, even if it's someone who is a caregiver or just like me, love to serve and take care of others, how do you find that balance in, I love the way that you worded that delicate balance between serving others and not losing yourself?
Right. I would suggest getting up a few minutes early in the morning and practicing mindfulness, breathing just a few minutes early, even if it's 10 minutes earlier before anyone gets, because we can lose ourselves as a mom, as a wife, as a caregiver, as a sister, as a friend. You're there for everyone else. And by the time most women go to the doctor, it's whatever they were experiencing. I don't want to say it's too late, but then you're forced to take care of yourself. So I would suggest, even if you're at work, sometimes it helps if you close your door, but not at a television station because it's always an emergency. But go to your car, find a place to go where no one is. Go to your car. And if people go to a parking lot. And if that doesn't work, just get in your car and go to a restaurant nearby and sit in the car. But you have to make that time for mindfulness, for prayer, for meditation. You have to. Or if you're not too tired or exhausted, I would suggest staying up a little, because my husband goes to bed, well, he falls asleep faster than I do, and stay up a little bit. But you have to find that time for yourself. So I think the older generation, we used to call it me time, but the younger generation, they call it self-care. So you need to find time for that. Take a walk on your lunch hour. If you can, go outside, take a 10. You'll be surprised how refreshed you will become as a result of that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. So what would you say when you think about writing this book? I'm sure you've had people come to you and say, hey, this book came at a great time. And what would you say is the most inspiring feedback that you've gotten from someone who read your book and how it impacted their life?
When some people say, I really needed this. I really needed this. And another thing is, I've had people to say to me, they had no idea how to even begin the journey of self-care. And so that makes me feel good knowing that, wow, okay, there are other people experiencing this and they had no idea about, because we tend to feel guilty about taking some time to take care of ourselves. And so that makes me feel good when people tell me that it was just what they needed, or now they know how to get started on the self-care journey.
Absolutely.
When you talk about meditating and what does that look like? Or what are your recommendations for meditating? I feel like I like to take some time, and I do read a lot, but in terms of sitting in my own thoughts it's a little intimidating. How do you suggest somebody, if you were just square one, I'm taking time for myself, I'm going to take some time out to do this, how do you suggest starting?
Meditation can be hard, and that's why I threw in the term mindfulness, because start off with meditation, start off maybe 5 minutes, because meditation is thinking about good things. Focus on good things. What happens, we'll start meditating and we'll think, oh, I've got this meeting at 10 o'clock. I've got to pick the kids up at 2. I have an appointment at 4. That's not meditating. That's going through your to-do list.
That's the 10 minutes. That's 15 minutes.
That's my challenge. I literally take time for myself and I start visualizing my to-do list. I'm like, what am I sitting here doing nothing for?
That's what's so hard. That's why we need to talk more. Let's talk a little bit about mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment. Being present, like right now we're here and we're having this good conversation. We don't need to be thinking about what I got to do at 9 o'clock, what I have to do at 7 o'clock. So that's why meditation can be challenging, can be difficult. Start off small and just kind of breathe in. Just breathe in. Like, we can do that real quick. Breathe in, hold it, and breathe out. Breathe in again. Hold it and breathe out. Do about 3 to 5 cycles of that. Studies have shown it helps lower your blood pressure. It helps with anxiety. But I'm telling you, it can be difficult.
Well, that might be the trick, because I don't do that before meditation. That might be the secret sauce.
I'm telling you, meditation can be difficult. It can be difficult because you start thinking about, oh, wait a minute. I got this appointment tomorrow. I have to be to the dentist at 2 o'clock. I forgot the kids. I got to pick the kids up at 3. My son has to be at basketball practice and all of that. So that it is difficult. So that's why I suggest starting off for a few minutes and then work up to it until you get it. And then once your mind starts going, either bring it back in, so to speak, or just let it go and try another time, and then add those time, because meditation can be hard.
It makes me think of, maybe you guys could relate to this, but when you think of that, I feel like the first time I ever tried a plank, and I literally could hold it for about 10 seconds, and the goal was a minute, and I just thought, how is this even going to happen? How am I going to keep this dead body weight up? And up playing.
No,
But in the
that's a good
same
one.
capacity,
A minute
it's
is
like
so long.
if with the meditating, right? Like to your point, Reverend Jennifer, that it was just like if I start at 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, like I can do this for 30 seconds, right? I can do anything for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But like just taking those in small doses, or even at those types of things, I feel like that's probably a really great place to start for people that have like that wandering mind, like
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Great analogy.
Yeah, it
Perfect
is.
analogy.
She is full of those.
Case in point, I'm
telling
up
you
to a minute 30 right now. If anybody cares.
I was
I'm,
going to give
I'm
you.
still at about 30 seconds.
right. I
But
cannot
that's a
even
great
remember.
analogy.
Yeah, no, it is. It really is. Corlin is the analogy queen, by the way.
That's a great point though, that the I don't want to dumb it down by calling it baby steps, but I think that even our last episode when we talked about anxiety, Corlin had brought up something like, hey, maybe just try this one thing instead of these 5 things. So I think that's a good point. But truly, I love that what you just said, Reverend Jennifer, about just maybe you just start with breathing. You know, maybe you just start with 3 minutes of it and just kind of work your way up. I mean, it's just like working out, Cor. I mean, it's like
It's just like that.
Right? It's just like that. But you know, starting small, building a little bit, working a little bit. Because I agree. I will try, and I will just what you said, Reverend Jennifer. I will sit there and think about all the other things, and it's. You know, sometimes it's the 20 minutes when I'm trying to go to sleep at night. Sometimes it's, you know, when I'm thinking, oh, I can sit outside for 5 minutes and breathe and think. And then you start making that list in your head. So I love that. I think like if I could have a takeaway from this, that's probably mine right there, is just take those small steps and work towards something bigger. And I love the breathing technique, and I'm definitely going to try that.
Yes, look it up to make sure. But I think it's you breathe in for like 3 seconds, you hold it for like 5 seconds, and breathe out. So do about 3 to 5 cycles of that. And once you do that, you know, that's part of the self-care. You will feel more refuel. It would add to you. You'll feel more rejuvenated. I'm telling you, it's worth it. I am a big proponent for self-care.
Yeah.
And now
no.
I have some of my closest friends, they are getting into that. Like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, this self-care thing is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to make sure that part of self-care is also shopping, because I think that
You also have to start with baby steps with that, Jessica.
Of course it is.
One bag.
we're right, just one. But I don't know. I feel like time is always my biggest issue. And I like the fact that we forget sometimes that was my takeaway from this, is that even if it's just a few minutes early, is to be able to do something like that. And I find myself, and maybe you can speak a little bit to this, time is an issue, and I'm like, okay, as soon as I open my eyes, I go into prayer. And so I need to, I think, work in, because I think they both have a place, right? I think there's a place for prayer and there's a place for meditation, and you just have to figure out what works, because it took me a long time. I remember back in the day where I used to have to set an alarm when alarm clocks were still happening, to set an alarm to actually remind me to pray, as sad as that may be. But now, as soon as I open my eyes, I'm thanking the Lord for opening my eyes, and then I go right into prayer, right? So I guess it's maybe I answered my question, but I want to hear your thoughts on how to really couple the meditation and the prayer, or should they just be at completely separate times, or what's your thoughts there?
I would say, because there is a scripture, I can't think of it right now, but there's a scripture that talks about prayer and meditation.
Okay.
I'll look it up and I'll send it to you at some point. But that's absolutely praying, meditating on scriptures, praise and worship, listening to the voice of God, practice gratitude, and practice forgiveness. That's also part of what I call soul care. Taking care
I like
of the
that.
soul, which is a part of self-care.
I
So
love
that
that.
praying and meditation, yes, praying, that's when you're talking to God. And some say meditation is when you're listening to God. So yes,
I
I'll
like that.
start praying and then I'll go into meditation. But absolutely, we need to do that.
Yeah.
Good question.
I think one of the things that you just had mentioned about this whole idea of forgiveness as being self-care is
We just talked
probably a
about that.
whole episode on that. But I think that when I feel anxious, when I feel unsettled, a lot of times it's because somebody else is involved. It's not just me. It's sometimes some of my coworkers, family, friends, my child, whatever the case may be. But I think that it's a lot of times when you get in your head, it's all, what are these people doing to me? What's happening to me versus what can I do to release some of this? And I think that piece of forgiveness is probably a part that, I mean, I for sure overlook in a lot of self-care, that being able to release some things. Can you speak to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Forgiveness, that's probably a whole nother episode. But you do need to release it. You can't continue to hold on it because forgiveness, it will eat at you. It can also cause high blood pressure and stress and things like that. And chances are the person that you're holding that for unforgiveness, they're gone on about their business, as we like to say.
Preach,
They've gone
Reverend.
on and you're still
Yeah. Hmm.
you're still holding on to that and that person is gone, has forgotten about it. It's hard, but you have to do it for you. Think of it as part of your self-care.
Yeah.
Like I said, this comes under what I call soul care,
Mm-hmm.
but it is a part of self-care. I know it's hard. Somebody does something to you and you want to get back at them. It takes more courage to let it go and then to blow up.
Mm.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yeah. I like
Yeah,
that thought
it's not worth
of taking care of the mind, the body, and the soul.
it.
Because
Correct.
what happens is people half step and then they're like, you could be in the gym all day, every day working out. But if you're not taking care of your mind, if you're not taking care of your soul, then it's all for nothing. So it's a
Right.
lot. It's a lot to manage. But I think for me, I have to split them up and figure out how to manage them individually, because if one is forgotten,
hmm
you get caught up somewhere.
Right. And that's
Get
a good
caught up.
point. That's a good
Yeah.
point.
So
Yeah.
I feel like this was, again, a very timely conversation for all of us. The three of us, we are still working on this every day. So thank you so much for coming and talking to us about this, Reverend Jennifer. I do want to give you an opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about maybe whether it's your ministry or, leading people to your website or where to find your book. But how can people find you? Because we need to continue to give people the tools to help them. So tell us a little bit about how we can find you, everything and everywhere.
Okay. I'm on Instagram. It's JE Ministries.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook. It's Jennifer Elchelberger. So you could probably Google me and find Jennifer Elchelberger. So if they want to find me, I'd say Facebook and Instagram would be the easiest way to find me.
Absolutely.
And my book is on Amazon. It's Self-Care, The Vital Art of Nurturing You. Jennifer Stovall Elchelberger. Make sure they look up Jennifer Stovall Elchelberger because there are lots of books about self-care.
Okay. Can you hold yours up for those people on watching us on YouTube and kind of let us see the cover? Do you have one in front of you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
We
Can I?
can.
Let me pull it down.
It's really easy to find on Amazon. I looked it up in like 2 seconds today. Her name and the title of the book. It's really easy to find.
Okay. I love that and I love the fact that it is not 473,000 pages, because I don't have time to read books that big. So it's an easy read. It's a good read. I love the fact that, it's based on God's word. That's always important to me because there's a
Yes.
lot of stuff out there that's a lot of jibber jabber. And if it's not from God's word, I don't want anything to do with it. That's just me.
Absolutely.
So, but thank you so much. And listen, just remember, if you want to watch this episode on YouTube, Lead Like a Girl Lab on YouTube, subscribe, follow, send us a message. We want to know what you guys want to listen to. We want feedback on our episodes. But we're also on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all of those good things. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. And until next time, we are out.
Thank you for